the shock of reality. You are not suffering because of the world. You are suffering because you have not mastered yourself. That sentence alone is enough to make most people uncomfortable because it removes the illusion that something out there is responsible for what is happening inside you. It strips away excuses. It exposes a truth that is simple, direct, and almost impossible to ignore once you truly see it. You have been taught, consciously or not, to believe that your peace depends on circumstances, that your emotional state is a reaction to what happens around you, that if people behaved better, if opportunities were fairer, if life were easier, then you would finally feel stable, confident, in control. But look closely at your own experience. How many times has something small been enough to disturb your entire day? A message ignored, a word spoken in the wrong tone, a plan that did not go as expected. The external event was minor, yet the internal reaction was intense. Now consider the opposite. There are people who face loss, pressure, rejection, and still remain composed, not because they are numb, not because they feel nothing, but because they have built something most people never even attempt to build: inner authority. This is the dividing line between those who are controlled by life and those who control themselves within life. Epictetus made this distinction with sharp precision in Enchiridion Section 1. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. This is not just a philosophical idea. It is a filter that separates clarity from chaos. Yet most people ignore it completely. They invest their energy in what they cannot command and neglect what is entirely theirs to govern. Your thoughts, your interpretations, your reactions, that is where your real life is happening. Every time you react without awareness, you reinforce a pattern. Every time you allow emotion to take control before reason has a chance to speak, you weaken your position. Every time you hand over your attention to something external, you give away a piece of your stability, and it happens so quickly that you do not even notice. A comment triggers irritation. Irritation becomes frustration. Frustration becomes a shift in behavior. And suddenly, your entire state has been altered by something that had no real authority over you. You were not forced. You allowed it. This is what most people refuse to accept. They want to believe they are victims of circumstance, because that belief removes responsibility. It allows them to stay exactly where they are, repeating the same patterns, feeling the same instability, blaming the same external factors. But the cost of that belief is enormous, because if the world controls how you feel, then you are permanently vulnerable. You become dependent on outcomes you cannot guarantee. You become fragile in the face of unpredictability. You become reactive instead of intentional. And a reactive life is an unstable life. You say you want control, but control does not begin with the world. It begins with the space between stimulus and response. It begins in that brief moment where you have a choice, even if you are not used to seeing it. That moment is your power, but power that is not trained is power that is lost. This is why most people remain stuck, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack potential, but because they have never learned to govern themselves. They have never been taught to observe their own mind, to question their own reactions, to interrupt their own impulses. So they live as passengers, not as drivers, and the result is predictable. Emotional instability, lack of direction, a constant feeling of being pulled by forces they do not understand. But here is the truth that changes everything. Nothing external has the authority to define your inner state unless you give it permission. Not people, not events, not circumstances. That permission is given through your interpretation. You see something, you assign meaning, and that meaning shapes your reaction. Change the interpretation, and you change the experience. Not partially, but completely. This is where real control begins. Not in forcing the world to behave differently, but in refusing to let the world dictate how you think, how you feel, and how you act. And once you understand this, truly understand it, you can no longer go back to the old way of living, because you start to see clearly. You start to notice patterns. You start to recognize how often you are giving away your power without even realizing it. And that awareness creates tension. Because now you see the gap between who you are and who you could be if you chose discipline over impulse, clarity over reaction, control over chaos. And that brings you to a decision. You can continue living as you have always lived, reacting, blaming, adapting to whatever comes your way. Or you can begin the process of mastering yourself, which is harder, quieter, and infinitely more powerful. But before you can walk that path, you need to confront one more uncomfortable truth. What you believe about control is wrong. You were conditioned to think wrong. From the moment you began to understand the world, you were trained to look outward for control. You were taught to behave based on reactions, rewarded when things went well, discouraged when they did not. You learned, slowly and silently, that your emotional state should follow what happens around you. If something good happens, you feel good. If something bad happens, you feel bad. Simple, automatic, unquestioned. But that model is flawed at its core, because it places your entire internal stability in the hands of variables you cannot control. People change, circumstances shift, outcomes fail. And when your sense of peace is tied to those things, instability becomes inevitable. You were not taught to question this. You were taught to adapt to it. And this is where the trap forms. You begin to believe that control means influencing the external world. You try to manage how people see you. You try to predict outcomes. You try to avoid discomfort, avoid rejection, avoid uncertainty. Every effort is directed outward, as if the solution is somewhere beyond you. But the more you try to control the external, the more you lose control of the internal. Epictetus confronted this illusion directly in Enchiridion Section 1. He divided reality into two categories with absolute precision: things that are within your control and things that are not. Your opinions, your desires, your actions, these belong to you. Everything else does not. Most people understand this intellectually. Very few live by it, because living by it requires a complete shift in how you interpret reality. It requires you to stop asking how to control what happens and start asking how to control how you respond. That shift is uncomfortable. It removes the possibility of blame. It eliminates excuses. It places responsibility exactly where most people do not want it, on themselves. Think about how often you say something like this: "This situation made me angry. That person ruined my day. This problem stressed me out." It sounds natural. It sounds logical. But it is not accurate. The situation did not make you angry. Your interpretation of the situation created anger. The person did not ruin your day. Your reaction to that person shaped your experience. The problem did not generate stress. Your perception of the problem produced that state. This is not semantics. This is power. Because if the cause is external, you are helpless. But if the cause is internal, you have control. And that realization changes everything. Yet most people resist it, not because it is wrong, but because it demands discipline. It demands awareness. It demands that you pause before reacting, that you examine your own thoughts, that you take ownership of your own state. And that is difficult when you have spent years, even decades, reinforcing the opposite behavior. You have trained yourself to react instantly, to trust your first emotional impulse, to validate your feelings without questioning their origin. And each time you do that, you strengthen the habit. That is conditioning. It is not that you cannot control yourself. It is that you have practiced not controlling yourself for so long that it feels natural. But natural is not the same as correct. A mind left untrained will always follow the easiest path. It will seek comfort, avoid discomfort, react quickly, and justify itself afterward. It will protect the ego, even when the ego is wrong. It will choose short-term relief over long-term strength. And that is why most people remain fragile. They are not weak by nature. They are weak by habit. The moment something challenges them, they react. The moment something threatens their identity, they defend. The moment something feels uncomfortable, they resist. And each of these reactions reinforces the belief that they are at the mercy of what happens around them. But that belief is the real prison. Because as long as you believe that control exists outside of you, you will never develop the control that exists within you. And here is where the shift begins. You start to observe instead of react. You begin to question instead of assume. You create a small space between what happens and what you do next. At first, that space feels unnatural, slow, almost uncomfortable. But that space is where freedom exists. It is where you choose your response instead of repeating a pattern. It is where you interrupt the conditioning that has been running your life without your awareness. And once you experience that even once, you begin to see how much of your life has been automatic. How many reactions were unnecessary? How many emotions were exaggerated? How many situations were amplified by your own interpretation? This awareness does not weaken you. It sharpens you, because now you are no longer operating blindly. You are no longer surrendering control without realizing it. You are starting to reclaim something that was always yours. But understanding this is only the beginning, because knowing the difference between what you can control and what you cannot does not automatically make you strong. It only shows you the path. Walking that path requires something deeper. A system, a structure, a way of thinking that you can apply in every situation, no matter how chaotic, no matter how intense. And that is exactly what you are about to see next. The invisible code of the unshakable. There is a level of mental stability that most people will never reach, not because it is impossible, but because they never discover the structure behind it. They think strength is personality. They think composure is temperament. They believe some people are naturally calm, naturally disciplined, naturally resistant to pressure. And because they believe that, they never attempt to build it. But that belief is another illusion. What you are about to understand is not personality. It is not talent. It is not something you are born with. It is a system, a way of seeing, interpreting, and responding to reality that can be trained, reinforced, and mastered. This is what the Stoics understood with precision. They were not trying to escape life. They were training to face it without being broken by it. They were not chasing comfort. They were building internal order in a world that is inherently unpredictable. And that is why they became unshakable. Epictetus did not teach people how to control outcomes. He taught them how to become independent of outcomes. That is a completely different level of power. Because when your stability depends on results, you are always exposed. But when your stability depends on your own internal structure, nothing external can take it away from you. This is the code. It is invisible because most people are not looking for it. They are focused on changing circumstances, improving conditions, gaining advantages. They are trying to win outside while losing control inside. The unshakable operate differently. They build from within. They understand that clarity is more valuable than comfort, that discipline is more reliable than motivation, that perception shapes experience more than reality itself. And once this understanding is internalized, everything begins to change. You stop asking why something happened to you and start asking how you will respond to it. You stop reacting to noise and start filtering what deserves your attention. You stop chasing validation and start building self-respect. This shift is subtle, but its impact is absolute. Because now you are no longer dependent on the world behaving the way you want. You are prepared for the world as it is. And the world as it is will test you constantly. It will challenge your patience. It will provoke your emotions. It will present situations that feel unfair, unexpected, uncomfortable. And in those moments, most people collapse into reaction. Not because they choose to, but because they have no structure to rely on. They feel and then they act. But the unshakable follow a different sequence. They perceive, they pause, they choose. That pause is not weakness. It is control in its purest form. It is the moment where impulse is interrupted and replaced with intention. It is where emotion is acknowledged but not obeyed. It is where you decide who you are going to be in that situation, instead of letting the situation decide for you. And that is what gives them an advantage in every area of life. Not because they avoid difficulty, but because difficulty does not destabilize them. They remain clear when others are confused. They remain steady when others are reactive. They remain focused when others are distracted. And this is not something abstract. It is practical. It shows in conversations, in decisions, in moments of pressure. It shapes how they speak, how they think, how they act. It creates consistency, and consistency creates power. But this code is not something you understand once and instantly embody. It is something you apply repeatedly until it becomes part of you. At first, it feels deliberate. You have to remind yourself to pause, to observe, to choose. But over time, it becomes natural, not because it is easy, but because it has been practiced. And this is where most people stop. They understand the idea, but they do not build the habit. They see the value, but they do not commit to the process. They want the result without the discipline required to sustain it. That is why they remain unstable. Because stability is not a concept. It is a structure built through repetition. And that structure is composed of principles, not vague ideas, but clear, direct, applicable rules that govern how you operate regardless of what is happening around you. These principles are not optional if your goal is to become unshakable. They are the foundation. Without them, you will continue reacting. With them, you begin to take control. And what you are about to see next are not suggestions. They are pillars. Each one challenges a part of your current behavior. Each one demands a level of discipline most people avoid. Each one, if applied, moves you closer to a state where nothing external can easily disturb you. This is where the real work begins. Pillar 1. Absolute internal dominion. Everything changes the moment you understand this with complete clarity. You do not control what happens, you control how you respond to what happens. This is not a motivational phrase. It is a law. And like every law that governs reality, it operates whether you accept it or not. Most people spend their lives trying to gain control over events. They try to avoid criticism, avoid rejection, avoid failure. They try to shape circumstances in a way that protects their emotional state. But this is a losing strategy, because the external world does not obey your preferences. People will misunderstand you. Situations will not go as planned. Outcomes will not always reflect your effort. This is not occasional. This is constant. So if your stability depends on things going your way, you will never be stable. Epictetus addressed this directly in Enchiridion Section 1. He made it clear that external events are not yours to command. Your body, your possessions, your reputation, even your position in society, none of these are fully within your control. But your judgments, your choices, your responses, these belong entirely to you, and that is where your power begins. But here is where most people fail. They hear this idea, they agree with it, and then they continue reacting exactly as before. Because understanding the principle is not the same as applying it in real time. The real test happens in the moment. Someone disrespects you. What do? The automatic response is immediate. Emotion rises, tension builds, words form before thought has time to intervene. You feel the urge to react, to defend, to respond with the same intensity you received. And in that moment, you believe you are in control. But you are not. You are being controlled by your impulse. This is the illusion. Reaction feels like power, but it is submission. It is the surrender of control to something external. The event happens, and you follow. True power is different. True power is the ability to feel the impulse and not obey it. To recognize the reaction forming and choose something else. To create a gap between what happens and what you do next. That gap is where control exists. Without it, you are predictable. You are reactive. You are easily influenced by anyone or anything that knows how to trigger you. With it, you become deliberate. You become stable. You become difficult to manipulate. And this is not about suppressing emotion. It is about governing it. You still feel anger, frustration, disappointment. But instead of being driven by those emotions, you observe them. You question them. You decide whether they deserve to influence your behavior. Most of the time, they do not. Because emotion is not always accurate. It is fast, instinctive, often exaggerated. It is based on perception, not necessarily on truth. If you act on every emotion, you will act on distortions. This is why discipline is required. You must train yourself to pause, not occasionally, but consistently. At first, this feels unnatural. You are used to immediate reaction. You are used to trusting your first impulse. Slowing down feels like resistance, like holding something back. But that resistance is necessary, because it interrupts the pattern that has been running your behavior without your awareness. The more you practice this, the more you strengthen your control. The pause becomes longer. The observation becomes clearer. The choice becomes more intentional. And over time, something shifts. You stop being surprised by your own reactions because you are no longer reacting automatically. You start seeing situations more objectively because you are no longer consumed by them. You become stable, not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. And this strength is not visible in dramatic moments. It shows in small, consistent decisions, in the way you respond to inconvenience, in the way you handle disagreement, in the way you deal with uncertainty. It shows in your consistency. Because consistency is the result of control, and control, in this context, is not about forcing outcomes. It is about mastering yourself regardless of outcomes. That is why this pillar is absolute. If you lose control of your response, you lose control of everything that follows. Your decisions become reactive. Your behavior becomes inconsistent. Your direction becomes unclear. But if you maintain control of your response, even when the situation is not ideal, you preserve your position. You remain stable in an unstable environment. And that gives you an advantage that most people will never develop, because they are still trying to control the world, while you are learning to control yourself. And once this becomes natural, once your response is no longer dictated by impulse but by choice, you are ready for the next level of power, a level that most people misunderstand completely. Pillar 2, the art of strategic silence. Most people reveal their weakness the moment they speak without thinking. They feel the need to respond, to defend, to explain, to prove something. Words come quickly, almost automatically, driven by the discomfort of not being understood, not being validated, not being in control of how they are perceived. And in that urgency, they give away their power. Silence, when misunderstood, is seen as passivity, as if saying nothing means having nothing to say, as if restraint is a sign of weakness. But in reality, silence is one of the most precise tools of control you can develop. Because the person who cannot remain silent is not in control of their mind. They are reacting. Epictetus warned about this tendency in Discourses Book 1, Chapter 2. He emphasized that a person should first learn to listen, to observe, to understand, before attempting to speak. Not because speech is wrong, but because unfiltered speech exposes an undisciplined mind. Think about how often people speak just to relieve internal pressure. Someone challenges them, and they rush to respond. Someone questions them, and they rush to justify. Someone provokes them, and they rush to retaliate. In each of these moments, the goal is not clarity. The goal is relief. They want to discharge the tension they feel inside. But every time you speak from that place, you lose position, because you are no longer choosing your words. Your emotions are choosing for you. Strategic silence is different. It is not the absence of speech. It is the refusal to speak without purpose. It is the ability to hold your position without feeling the need to immediately express it. It is the discipline to observe the situation fully before deciding if a response is even necessary. And most of the time, it is not. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every provocation deserves attention. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. The more you understand this, the less you feel the need to engage in unnecessary exchanges. And this creates a shift in how others perceive you. Because when you do not react immediately, you create uncertainty. When you do not explain yourself constantly, you create presence. When you choose your words carefully, instead of speaking impulsively, your words carry weight. Silence amplifies authority, but only when it is intentional. If your silence comes from fear, it weakens you. If it comes from insecurity, it isolates you. But if it comes from control, it strengthens you. The difference is internal. When you are silent out of control, you are observing, analyzing, deciding. You are not avoiding the situation. You are mastering your position within it. This is what most people fail to understand. They think power is expressed through constant communication, through always having something to say, always having a response, always being involved. But real power is selective. It knows when to engage and when to withdraw. It understands that attention is limited and that where you place it determines your state. Every unnecessary argument drains you. Every impulsive response exposes you. Every attempt to prove yourself places you in a reactive position. Strategic silence removes you from that pattern. It allows you to remain centered while others lose control. It allows you to observe while others reveal themselves. It allows you to choose your moment instead of being pulled into someone else's. And that gives you an advantage that is not obvious, but is deeply effective. Because while others are busy reacting, you are processing. While others are speaking without thinking, you are thinking before speaking. And that difference accumulates. It changes the quality of your decisions. It changes the way people interact with you. It changes the way you experience conflict. You become less affected. Not because the world becomes quieter, but because you stop responding to every noise. And this requires discipline. You will feel the urge to speak, to correct, to defend, to engage. That urge does not disappear immediately, but you begin to recognize it for what it is, an impulse, not a necessity. And once you see it clearly, you can choose differently. You can remain silent, not as avoidance, but as control. And in that silence, you maintain your position. You remain stable while others become unstable. You remain composed while others become emotional. You remain deliberate while others become impulsive. And this is where a deeper form of power begins to emerge. Because when you are no longer controlled by the need to react, you are no longer controlled by the need to be seen in a certain way. And that leads to the next level of freedom, one that most people confuse with indifference, but is something far more precise. Pillar 3. Indifference to external chaos. Most people are not controlled by events. They are controlled by opinions. Not their own, but the opinions of others. What people think, what people say, how people react. These become invisible forces, shaping behavior, decisions, and emotional states. And the most dangerous part is that this control is rarely questioned. It feels normal. You adjust your words to be accepted. You hesitate before acting to avoid judgment. You measure your value based on how others respond to you. And without realizing it, you build your entire identity around external validation. This is instability disguised as adaptation. Because the moment your sense of self depends on something outside of you, you lose control over it. Epictetus addressed this clearly in Enchiridion section 5. He explained that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And when those opinions are influenced by others, your state becomes fragile. One comment can elevate you, another can destroy you. That is not strength. That is dependence. And dependence creates constant tension because you are always exposed to variables you cannot regulate. People will judge you. People will misunderstand you. People will project their own fears, insecurities, and limitations onto you. This is not occasional. It is inevitable. So if your goal is to be understood by everyone, approved by everyone, validated by everyone, you are setting yourself up for continuous instability. Indifference to external chaos is not about becoming cold or disconnected. It is about becoming free from the need for approval. There is a difference. A person who is emotionally detached avoids life. A person who is indifferent to chaos engages with life without being controlled by it. They still act. They still speak. They still move forward. But their actions are not dictated by how they will be perceived. They are dictated by internal alignment. This is where most people struggle, because the desire for validation is deeply rooted. It begins early, reinforced by social approval, by feedback, by comparison. You learn to associate acceptance with safety and rejection with discomfort. So you adapt. You become careful. You become calculated. You begin filtering yourself, not based on truth, but based on how others might react. And over time, you lose clarity. You stop asking what is right and start asking what will be accepted. That shift weakens you, because now your decisions are no longer yours. They are influenced, adjusted, and often compromised by external noise. Indifference cuts through that noise. It allows you to hear opinions without being shaped by them. It allows you to receive criticism without internalizing it. It allows you to be misunderstood without feeling the need to correct every perception. And this creates stability, because now your state is not rising and falling based on external reactions. It remains consistent. You are no longer elevated by praise or diminished by criticism. You see both as information, not as definitions. This is a higher level of control, because it requires you to separate your identity from what others think of you. Most people cannot do this. They merge the two. If they are praised, they feel valuable. If they are criticized, they feel diminished. Their sense of self becomes reactive, constantly adjusting to external input. But when you develop indifference, that pattern breaks. You begin to see opinions for what they are, perspectives, not truths. And once you see that clearly, their power over you disappears. You can listen without absorbing. You can observe without reacting. You can engage without needing approval. And that changes how you move through the world. You become more direct, more precise, more aligned with your own standards instead of borrowed ones. This does not mean you ignore feedback. It means you evaluate it without surrendering your stability. You take what is useful and discard what is not, without emotional disturbance, without internal conflict. And this creates a quiet confidence, not loud, not performative, but grounded, because it is not built on what others think. It is built on what you know about yourself. And that foundation is difficult to shake, because it does not depend on anything external. It exists regardless of opinion, regardless of circumstance, regardless of outcome. And once you reach that level, something shifts again. You stop being distracted by noise. You start focusing on what actually moves your life forward, and that requires something most people avoid: consistency. Because without it, even the strongest mindset will collapse under pressure. Pillar 4. Discipline as an invisible shield. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for motivation, for the right mood, for the perfect moment. They believe that action should follow emotion, that effort should come naturally, that consistency is a result of feeling inspired. And because of that, they remain inconsistent. They move when they feel like it. They stop when they do not. They begin with intensity and abandon with ease. Their behavior fluctuates with their emotions, and their results reflect that instability. This is why discipline is misunderstood. It is not something you use occasionally. It is something you become. Epictetus made this clear in Discourses Book 2, Chapter 18. He emphasized that no one becomes strong by wishing for strength. Strength is built through repeated action, through voluntary effort, through doing what is necessary regardless of how you feel. That is discipline. It is not loud, it is not visible, it does not seek recognition. It operates quietly, consistently, without needing external validation. And that is why it is powerful. Because when discipline becomes part of your identity, you no longer rely on temporary states to guide your actions. You do not ask yourself if you feel like doing something. You decide, and then you do it, without negotiation. This creates stability, because now your behavior is not influenced by emotional fluctuation. It is governed by commitment, and commitment is stronger than motivation. Motivation rises and falls. It is unpredictable, reactive, dependent on circumstances. Discipline is constant. It remains even when motivation disappears, and it will disappear. There will be days when you do not feel focused, days when you do not feel strong, days when everything inside you suggests that you should stop, delay, avoid. That is where most people break. Not because they are incapable, but because they are untrained. They have built a habit of following their feelings, and when those feelings turn against them, they follow them again. Discipline interrupts that pattern. It creates a standard that does not change based on how you feel. You act because you decided to act, not because you feel like it, and that changes everything. Because now you are no longer dependent on favorable conditions. You can operate under pressure, under discomfort, under uncertainty. You become reliable, not to others, but to yourself. And that is the foundation of self-respect. Because every time you follow through on what you said you would do, even when it is difficult, you reinforce a message. You prove to yourself that your word has weight, that your decisions are not temporary, that your direction is not negotiable. That builds internal trust. And internal trust builds strength. Without it, you hesitate. You doubt your own decisions. You question your own capacity. You start and stop, move and retreat, commit and withdraw. With it, you move forward with clarity, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. This is why discipline acts as a shield, not because it protects you from difficulty, but because it protects you from yourself, from your impulses, from your excuses, from your tendency to choose comfort over growth. It creates a barrier between what you feel and what you do. And that barrier is what keeps you consistent when everything around you is unstable. Most people try to change their environment to make action easier. The disciplined person changes their standards so that action becomes inevitable. This is a higher level of control because it removes dependency on conditions. You no longer need the perfect setup, the right time, the ideal mindset. You act within the reality you have, not the one you wish for. And this compounds. Small actions repeated consistently create momentum. Momentum creates progress. Progress reinforces discipline. And over time, what once required effort becomes automatic. Not because it is easy, but because it has been repeated enough to become part of who you are. That is when discipline stops feeling like resistance and starts feeling like alignment. You no longer fight yourself. You move with intention. And that is what separates those who remain unstable from those who build something lasting. Because without discipline, every other principle collapses under pressure. You may understand control, you may practice silence, you may detach from external validation. But without consistency, those behaviors will break when challenged. Discipline holds them in place. It sustains your structure. And once that structure is stable, you are ready to face something that most people resist at all costs. Reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Pillar 5. Radical acceptance of reality. Most of your suffering does not come from what happens. It comes from your resistance to what has already happened. You argue with reality as if it should obey your expectations. You replay situations in your mind, imagining how they should have gone. You reject outcomes, resist circumstances, and internally fight against facts that cannot be changed. And that internal resistance creates tension, not because reality is against you, but because you refuse to align with it. Epictetus addressed this directly in Discourses, Book 1, Chapter 12. He explained that when you wish for things to happen as you want them to happen, you create conflict. But when you learn to want things to happen as they actually happen, you move into harmony. This is not passive, this is strategic. Radical acceptance is not about giving up. It is about seeing clearly. It is the ability to recognize what is already real, without distortion, without denial, without emotional exaggeration. It is the discipline to stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed and redirect that energy toward what can. But most people do the opposite. They resist. They resist outcomes they did not want. They resist people who did not behave as expected. They resist situations that challenge their comfort. And in that resistance, they multiply their own suffering. Because now they are dealing with two problems: the reality itself and their emotional rejection of that reality. And the second problem is always self-created. Think about how often you say, "This should not be happening. This is not fair. This is not what I wanted." Each of those statements is a form of resistance. And resistance does not change the situation. It only intensifies your reaction to it. Acceptance removes that layer. It allows you to see the situation as it is, not as you wish it were. And that clarity is powerful. Because once you accept reality, you stop arguing with it. You stop wasting energy on denial. You stop trying to rewrite what has already been written. And in that moment, your focus shifts. From resistance to response. From frustration to strategy. From emotion to action. This is where control returns. Not over the event, but over your position within the event. You begin to ask different questions. Not why did this happen, but what can I do now? Not why is this unfair, but how do I move forward from here? Not why me, but what is required of me in this situation. And those questions produce better outcomes, because they are grounded in reality. Most people avoid acceptance because they associate it with weakness. They believe that accepting something means agreeing with it, approving it, or surrendering to it. That is not what this is. You can accept reality without liking it. You can accept a situation while still choosing to act against it. You can accept what has happened without losing your desire to improve what comes next. Acceptance is not submission. It is clarity. And clarity is a prerequisite for effective action. Without it, you are reacting to a distorted version of reality, shaped by your expectations, your emotions, your resistance. With it, you are responding to what actually exists. And that makes your actions more precise, because you are no longer guessing. You are no longer projecting. You are dealing with facts. This is what gives you an advantage in difficult situations. While others are complaining, you are analyzing. While others are resisting, you are adapting. While others are emotionally overwhelmed, you are strategically focused. And that difference changes outcomes, because life does not reward resistance. It responds to clarity and action. The more quickly you accept what is real, the more quickly you can move forward. And that movement is what creates progress. Not the event itself, but your response to it. This is the final pillar because it integrates everything else. You cannot maintain internal control if you are resisting reality. You cannot remain silent if you are emotionally overwhelmed. You cannot stay indifferent to external chaos if you are attached to how things should be. You cannot sustain discipline if you are constantly frustrated by what you cannot change. Acceptance stabilizes all of it. It brings your mind into alignment with what is, so that your actions can be directed toward what matters. And once you reach that point, something becomes clear. You are no longer being shaped by circumstances. You are shaping your response to them. And that is where the transformation completes, because now you are no longer reacting, resisting, or depending. You are operating with awareness, control, and clarity. And that leads you to a decision that defines everything that comes next. The moment of choice. Become unshakable. Everything you have seen so far leads to a single unavoidable truth. Stability, power, and peace are not found outside. They are forged within. Every principle, every pillar, every lesson converges to this point. You cannot depend on the world to change for you, and you cannot depend on others to validate you. The control you seek exists only in your own mind. Now comes the decision that separates the passive from the deliberate. You can continue as you have always done, reacting to events, surrendering your calm to circumstance, allowing your emotions to dictate your actions. Or you can step into a new approach, one grounded in awareness, discipline, and acceptance. This choice is simple to understand but challenging to execute. It demands that you commit to internal mastery, even when the external world is unpredictable, hostile, or chaotic. This is the moment where theory becomes practice. All the knowledge of Epictetus, all the understanding of control, silence, indifference, discipline, and acceptance must be applied in real time. You will feel impulses. You will feel resistance. You will be tempted to revert to old habits, to react impulsively, to let circumstances dictate your state. That is normal. That is expected. The test is not whether these impulses arise, but whether you recognize them and choose differently. To become unshakable is not to become emotionless. It is not to suppress feelings or detach entirely from life. It is to develop the ability to feel fully, respond deliberately, and act intentionally, regardless of circumstance. This is mastery of the inner domain. It is freedom from chaos imposed by the external world. It is clarity in the midst of uncertainty. This decision creates alignment between thought, emotion, and action. It ensures that every response is deliberate, every reaction considered, and every choice reflective of your internal values rather than external pressure. When you consistently choose this path, your life shifts. You no longer chase comfort or approval. You no longer react out of fear, anger, or expectation. You begin to operate from a place of grounded authority. And once this alignment is achieved, the world cannot destabilize you. Criticism will not shake you. Failure will not define you. Rejection will not unseat you. Because your stability has been built from within, forged through awareness, practice, and deliberate choice. You have become the master of your own mind, and in that mastery lies a power that is rare, silent, and absolute. Every moment from this point on offers a choice. You can act with intention or drift with impulse. You can respond from clarity or be carried by emotion. You can uphold your inner structure or allow it to crumble. The unshakable choose alignment. They choose awareness. They choose control. And in that choice, every other principle becomes actionable. This is not a promise of ease or comfort. It is a promise of freedom. Freedom from internal chaos. Freedom from external manipulation. And freedom from the endless cycle of reaction that traps most people in instability. Your peace is no longer borrowed from circumstance. It is earned, owned, and unassailable. And that is the point where transformation is complete. You are no longer a passenger of life. You are no longer subject to the whims of events or the approval of others. You have chosen yourself. You have chosen control. You have chosen to become unshakable.